essentially we have two onboarding bits. What Andy and I refer to as a street speech, which is out of world onboarding. And then there's sort of an in-world onboarding when you go inside the lobby of the theater. Andy, you always say it's a little bit of anxiety relief. It's meant to be some anxiety relief.
I usually, I've just built into it, no, you don't need to know anything about the source material, and no homework is required. This is not a quiz.
My major takeaway from the street speech was the game is the show and the show is the game.
And I do say that about 85
times. So that is the one thing that I remembered, but I also I liked it, and it was said often.
Particularly, I lean into that when it is an escape room heavy crowd so that people will listen to the show, because we've had some pretty traumatic experiences of people literally tearing the set apart or looking under seats instead of listening to the performers. I particularly lean into that if I feel like it's a crowd that needs a bit more reminder that there are humans on stage that are that actually are as valuable as a set piece.
How do you juggle rules around interacting with the performers, please don't touch them or anything like that? And then versus how do you also handle rules around interacting with props? I hear you saying there are people who are literally ripping things apart, which sometimes if you're conditioned to doing that in escape rooms, it's hard to cut that conditioning. But then also when I first played, I hadn't played that many escape rooms at the time. And so I had no idea, do we get up? Are we allowed to touch stuff?
People tear light fixtures off the wall at one point, but we actually had to add a prop that is revealed in one of them that if someone hands you an envelope, open it. The envelope was too pretty. Nobody wanted to open the envelope. So we've also had the reverse, which is nobody wanted to open the envelope. It was because it had a gold seal on it.
I will add to PG that there is an aspect of, I will say this from my end of things, a lot of the work that I have done in museums and science centers and theme parks, you have to assume people are going to be pretty hard on things. And so there's this sort of giant radius of force that emanates from everything. So knowing that people are going to both be hard on something and then also look around what else can I touch and push? And then just be prepared for that as much as possible and try and get as much stuff out of eye line or be able to grab and really keep things focused. And I know that there's a lot of escape games, and I love this too, the scenery and the set design and the making it feel lived in and full is wonderful and great and important. And here we actually want to remove as much as possible so that you're only focused on the things that are in the theater and around you, the props that end up in front of you, and the actors and the words coming out of their mouth. So it's absolutely delicately designed for that reason.
And the game is the show and the show is the game. It works for both crowds, right? The folks that are feeling I don't know how to play a game, then great. You're watching the show. You're doing an awesome job. You're going to hear something that somebody else doesn't. And then the other person's oh, the game is the show. I'm going to go touch this prop. That's why I say it a million times, is it encourages both.
I think it was effective, and I think having played it is necessary. As someone who pays a lot of attention to the performers, I can feel the necessity of the statement.
I'm going to add one other thing as we are setting this all up, because I think it's important. And this wasn't your group, David, but PG, I believe it was when you played it a couple of years ago, is that this was designed for public bookings, as y'all call it in your world. And so, right, David, you guys had your whole full group come together. Totally fine. We've had a lot of people buy it out, but it is designed for public bookings, to all people come together. And that actually plays a lot into sharing things, talking to each other, including one of the first puzzles as we talk about it is meant to mix people up and get them I am here at a theater as a part of an audience rather than just I'm doing a game with my friends.
And that does help, PG, with what you were talking about before about sort of splitting the difference between tear the light fixtures off the wall and never talk to anybody and sit there quietly.
I think that's better when you have a mixed audience, because when you go with your friends group, you're all used to doing things a certain way. So if one person's destructive, the whole group tends to be very handsy. But when it's mixed, if I'm shy and someone else is a little bit more assertive, then we can help follow each other's lead. So I think having a mixed group really does help in that aspect. Listen to the rest of the episode now by becoming a patron at the Search Win level for access to all of the Spoilers Club episodes. To join, Visit patreon.com/roomescapeartist. And for more details on the different escape rooms that we've covered, visit roomescapeartist.com and search under the podcast tab for Spoilers Club.